I want this story to instill hope, to reignite your imagination. Stick around, learn a lot about me, and start creating something magnificent. I am sharing the Cliff Notes version of my story today. Things that I've been through, how I got to where I am. And I just want to put in a little trigger warning. I do talk about suicide and some uncomfortable things in the future. So viewer discretion advised. I just want to be proof to everybody that you have the power to change your story. You have the power to live a life beyond your wildest dreams, whatever you want that to look like. From the time I entered this world, my security was shaken. I was adopted when I was born. It is a magical, beautiful story. And my body, my heart, my head, my everything hold and have held a lot of confusion, grief, loss, sadness, pain from that experience. So being born into this world, I was immediately ripped away from all I'd ever known. The womb and the body that had loved and cared for me, and all of the things that I'm sure happen on a DNA energetic level when a baby is adopted. I was raised in a beautiful house and a home, and I'm so grateful for my parents and my siblings. Also grew up in a home with two working parents, with nannies, with activities that did not give me the space to be me. Two working parents meant that I didn't receive the connection, the security blanket that I, in hindsight, always yearned for. I grew up a ballerina, so I was in a leotard and tights from just a youngin' through puberty, being compared to other girls growing up, going through puberty, learning about themselves. I did not feel like I fit in at school. I felt bullied and other than, and I was always that person that wanted to be friends with everybody, while simultaneously I really wanted to fit in with the quote unquote cool kids so that I could feel that love and acceptance. And I also saw the love and acceptance that other people weren't getting. So I was trying to give it and get it, and it created a lot of internal turmoil. All this being said, SparkNotes version of my younger years, I saw what I wanted, tried to give it to other people, and tried to seek it in the wrong places. And I was doing the best I could with what I had. I have a lot of big feelings. I always have. I didn't have any words, any outlets, anything. And I remember a lot of outbursts as a child when I had these big feelings and it exploded out of me. I remember a lot of times where the pain of existing was just so much because I had all this energy and feelings and confusion and longing and loss inside of my body, and I didn't know where to put it. So with ballet being my passion and the place that I went to escape, to move my body, to get that energy out, to feel that structure, to get that immediate feedback of good versus bad, to fit in. It was also in a different time. 7 years old, or I don't know how old I was, probably, yeah, let's say like 8, 9 years old. I was taught how to read a food label. I was taught to only eat foods with 4 ingredients on that food label or less. I was taught to only eat foods with 2% fat or less. I still remember all of the rules. I was taught to only eat quote unquote happy foods on Sundays. I was given an assignment to do a daily food journal. Those food journals would be graded and we would be getting feedback on them. So you would write down everything you ate, you would turn it into the teacher, and they would tell you if you're doing good or bad. Very tangible. Okay, I passed this, I'm accepted, move on. So guess where all those big feelings, all those energies, all those confusions, all that yearning just to be loved and accepted and have security went? Controlling what I looked like, what I ate to get the approval from somebody else. And that set up the foundation for the rest of my life. From the moment I was placed into this world, I was removed for my security and was searching for that subconsciously the entire time. We use the word trauma a lot in this day and age. There's big traumas, there's micro traumas, there's whatever words people use. At the end of the day, a trauma is something that leads your body to feel unsafe. Everybody has years of traumas. They are not comparable. If it was an abusive, alcoholic dad, or it was a sibling pushing you off the slide, or it was your mom not listening to you when you showed her your new toy. Yes, those look different on the outside, but the way they make you feel could be the same. So we're going to label them all as a trauma. So we all have traumas that we have experienced in our lives that lead to a deep wound that we try to fill. Growing up, nobody gives us the tools to talk about this stuff. Nobody gives us the arena to explore what we genuinely need. So we automatically search for it outside of ourselves because we've come up with a story that we are not worthy, we are unlovable, we are not good enough because of whatever your trauma was, whatever your hurt was, whatever your deep wound was. And we spend our lives searching for that outside of ourselves based on somebody else's truth, not our own. I was hyper vigilant about what I ate because I knew that if I did that right and I looked a certain way, that I would get somebody else's approval and fit in with ballet. I was hyper vigilant about what other people thought of me. If I met their expectation, if I performed to what they needed, I would be loved and accepted. If I fit in with the cool kids at school and people admired me and looked up to me and gave me attention, and I was part of the popular crowd, I would be loved, accepted, and belong. Did I feel love, accepted, and belonged? No. Did I keep searching for it? Yes. I remember the first time that I ever thought about suicide before I even knew suicide was a concept. Because again, growing up, feeling words or feeling expression was not part of our vocabulary. I remember knowing that I was a worrier. That's kind of what we called me in my family, a worrier that had outbursts. I would worry about things. Looking back, it was anxiety. It was disconnect from what I needed and what I was searching for. I would have these big outbursts. Anyways, I was 10 years old when I first was like, existing is too painful. How do I make it stop? And I remember taking my parents' iPad and Googling how to kill yourself with ibuprofen. And I went into my room and I turned around all the pictures of my face because I wasn't scared of leaving this earth, but I was still worried about hurting other people. And so I was like, I don't want my mom to have to come in here and see my face in this room. So I took down all the pictures of me, turned everything around in my room. I really don't remember what happened next. I didn't end up taking any ibuprofen. I didn't end up trying anything. And I have a lot of God shots in my life of snippets of time that I don't remember where I survived when I shouldn't. And I remember waking up the next day, nothing happened. I didn't take any medication. It was more of a plan and an intent. And then I just went back to a painful existence, trying to find a place to fit in. My childhood memories, my growing up memories are very sparse, and I unfortunately remember a lot more of these moments than I do the joyful moments. Middle school, high school, same battles. I was participating in dance. I was comparing myself to other people to find my worth, always trying to include everybody and make everybody feel seen and loved, and trying to find that with the cool crowd. Like, that's just it was just so tumultuous inside because I remember being made fun of for sitting with a weird kid, or people would start rumors like, oh, Caroline was kissing this weird girl, but it was like, no, she was alone at lunch and I wanted to sit by her. So it was always what my soul wanted to do was to love and connect with everybody because there is no cool or uncool, while also receiving input from the outside world that if I did that, I would not fit in anymore. So in high school, it became my mission to be part of the cool kids, whatever that looked like. Starting with freshman year, it was the stoner crew. It was the partiers. I was 13 years old the first time that I did cocaine, drank alcohol, smoked a blunt, snuck out late, started hanging out with boys. luckily with my clothes on. Um, and I didn't find it there. I still felt that yearning. I still felt that loss of love, of being seen, of being accepted, of being heard. So I went to another friend group. I went to the preppy Mormons that on the outside, their families were perfect. Their parents were happy. Their parents had money to do the things that they wanted to do. They went on vacations. They went to church together. They had family time every single week. They communicated. They loved. They supported. That's what I wanted. So I switched again and became very by the books, a good girl, total 180. I mean, thankfully I did bounce around because I do have a lot of friendships that still stand up today from all those friend groups and the diversity that I was exploring. Got a nice boyfriend that treated me well, that had a family that loved and accepted me, that made space for me, that saw me in a way that I'd never seen before. You know, the high school love that just fills your heart and you think you're going to end up forever together gave me a first real look into what love and acceptance could look like. And of course, I was infatuated because it was the first time that somebody could see me in the mess, in the good, in the bad, in the ugly, in the beautiful, in the celebrations, and see me the same. I still cherish that relationship and that person deep in my heart and their family because of that. Got me through a lot of crazy times in high school. You know, with that crowd, it ran its course. I wasn't finding exactly what I needed to, so I dipped back into the party crowd because when drugs and alcohol are in my system, I don't even have a hole inside to fill anymore. So got back into the party scene in my senior year, I guess junior, senior year of high school, you know, just living it up as a 17-year-old with no job, very little responsibilities, filling a void inside of her that she didn't know even existed, was just automatically searching for. Go off to college at my dream school in Southern California. Again, no job, living limitlessly. You know, freshman year of college with no job in a new state with, it was a preppy top 1% kind of private school. So a lot of money around. Drugs and alcohol and partying were all that we did. The week before school, every day was a different theme with different parties, with different, you know, and it was a blast. Popped around, made a lot of amazing friends. First time in my life that I wasn't dancing, so I didn't really have any structure. And it was party, 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 fun, 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 dominoes at 2 a.m., Ubering all around, going to the beach, laying out at the pool, somehow still getting really good grades in these really hard classes because I was doing pre-med. It was great. It was amazing. I don't know how I made money in hindsight. I don't know how I had money for anything. I'm sure my parents just, you know, kept sending it to me, bless their souls. One day I was at the beach and had we would always do like these little photo shoots, you know. I was looking at these pictures of me and there was this one, I still remember it vividly. I still have it on my phone where I'm just so happy being around smiling and I have a gut. I had never seen my body hold body fat like that before. Wasn't a big gut, but to me, I was like, I look like 8 months pregnant in this photo. Like, what the heck? And so my brain started to feel really uncomfortable in my skin, to question what I looked like. Reignited that fire inside of, I this is disgusting. I really hate the way I look. Within the same time, there was a diving club opening up at the college and they were looking for anyone and everyone to join. And I was like, I did like a diving summer camp once and it was fun. So why not join? Heck yeah, try new things. So I had to go get a physical. Went to get a physical and I weighed about 15 pounds more than they asked. Like they're like, oh, how much do you think you weigh? And I step on the scale and it was 15 pounds more than what I thought I was gonna weigh. So those two things coupled really made me look at myself in a super negative way. I mean, yes, growing up in high school and stuff, I would judge my body. I always felt like I had bigger legs than everybody. I was like chunkier, not as lean, not as tiny, not as skinny. I was never that really skinny girl in high school. I mean, looking back, I was small. I've always been small. It's just not how it felt. But this was the first time where I really beat myself up about it. It was more than just comparing and feeling self-conscious. It was an internal self-hate, self-disgust, I don't even know myself anymore. And that is when a switch flipped, where I pulled back all of those food rules from ballet, pulled back all of the, if I look like this, if I act like this, then I'll be accepted. It wasn't anybody else that told me I looked bad. I just wanted to accept myself at this point. So what did I do? I started running. I started going to the gym. I had never been to a gym before. I downloaded the Nike app and was following stuff on the gym. I was working out with a friend that kind of knew what she was doing. I started restricting my food. I would eat chicken and kale and sweet potatoes, and that was about it, and egg whites. I stopped drinking. Well, I think I pretended to stop drinking. I would stop drinking during the week, be really good, restrict my food a ton, super hyper vigilant about counting my calories, would go on a run and a workout and all this stuff. And then on the weekend, I would drink out the Bahootie. I had such a high tolerance for alcohol and drugs that I would just go ham, wake up the next morning, hate myself, punish myself, go onto the Stairmaster for like an hour, thinking I was going to throw up and die because I was so hungover, eat egg whites, try to lift, do it all over again, show up on Monday for class, still get by with good grades. Don't ask me how it happened. But I couldn't stay away from the alcohol on the weekends because it was the only escape. I was getting into actually really sketchy situations because I did not respect myself. I was not thinking about my well-being. I was just trying to feel okay. And so sketchy situations with boys, situations that I don't know how I got out of, and drinking way too much and doing drugs that I don't even know where they were coming from. Then it was summer, so I went back to Utah, went home, and settled back into it, reconnected with high school friends, had lost a ton of weight, so I felt really, really good. Was excited to work in Utah for a little bit as a CNA, which is what I was working towards, as being a nurse, and then go back to California, just living the dream life. So I started working as a CNA, and towards the end of the summer, long story short, could not go back to Chapman because my younger sister was going to school. Parents didn't have enough money to send both of us. She was going for rowing on a scholarship. I was going to party and have fun. And internally, I was like, yep, she's got it. Parents never out front said it. I kind of had to sit them down and be the parent, which was another whole story, and pull out of them that they could not send me, but they didn't want to admit it. And so I was sitting on the edge of my seat for months just waiting. And I was the one that had to pull out of them that I couldn't go anymore and kind of make that decision. Really hard, really sad. So what did I do? Because that hole inside grew even more that said I'm not worthy of what I want and my dreams and my desires. I started working out even more. I got a personal trainer that showed me what to do. I got 2 more jobs so that I was always busy and performing and could feel worthy and could make my own money and feel like I was worth something. How did I feel? Terrible. Looking back, I'm a very high functioning depressed person. I'm not the depressed person that lays in bed all day. I'm the depressed person that doesn't sit still long enough to feel her feelings, because if she feels her feelings, she would implode. So I was working 12-hour shifts at the hospital, 8-hour shifts at the senior living facility, nannying for some kids that brought me joy, because there's a little kid inside of me that always seeks joy because it feels so good, but doesn't allow myself to feel it everywhere else. So I would feel guilty for feeling the joy, and then I would have to overwork and punish myself because I thought that getting to the place that I want to be meant I have to suffer, I have to prove, I have to earn. And so I suffered. I suffered hard. 4 hours of sleep every single night. I ran 3 to 4 miles every single morning. I lifted 90 minutes to 2 hours every day. I worked 12-hour shifts. I worked 8-hour shifts. I was doing so much to overcome that hole inside that just kept growing, that says, I am not worthy of just being me and having an easy life. And getting there is suffering, because the world tells us that. The world tells us we have to earn a living. We have to work our way to this fancy job till we make enough money, and then we can finally have a family and sit back a little bit. And you have to be in a healthy, good-looking body to get the approval from other people and the love that you deserve. I was playing all of those roles to a T. Because guess what? When I went out with friends and would drink way too much, guess what I would do the next day? I would eat even healthier and I would work out even more. And then I would go on vacation, and my vacation revolved around where's the gym? How do I run? How do I cook my food? Because I can't even go to a restaurant anymore because I don't know what's in that restaurant food. And if I eat off plan and if I eat something unhealthy, my body's going to implode. I'm going to get fat and nobody's going to love me. That cycle continued for years, trying to find it with the boyfriends, trying to whatever, until one day I found myself locked in my bathroom, hurting myself because I wanted to leave this planet again because it was so painful. Because no matter what I did, I just knew that being here on this planet as Caroline was too painful to even comprehend, that it needed to end somewhere, somehow. And the only thing that kept me with my feet planted in this physical reality was the love of the people that surrounded me, because I didn't want to hurt them. And we don't talk about this enough. We don't talk about the stories we learn growing up causing so much pain. After spending my first week in a psych ward, being placed on all these medications, being diagnosed with all these things, I didn't think I had an eating disorder. I mean, that didn't even cross my mind. I didn't think I had a mental illness. That didn't even cross my mind. I knew I had some sort of anxiety. I remember like buying these random CBD anxiety pills online one day that kind of helped. I don't even know, but was placed on all these medications. They said, yeah, you have an eating disorder. You actually need to go get help. This is really bad. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm just healthy and you don't want to admit it. It was bad. So on the road to therapy and rehab and treatment, I was a disaster. I flipped everything on its head. I started eating candy and cereal and sugar and stopped working out. And I now was using food to cope because I was just told that I was restricting too much to be a healthy individual and that it was hurting me and my body and my brain. Now we're on all these medications that actually cause me to be even hungrier, cause me to retain a lot of body fat, cause my internal neurotransmitters and hormones to be disrupted. So I was eating food to feel better because that feels good. Dopamine feels good. Sugar feels good for an instant, and then it goes away, and then you need more. And I was stuck in that cycle. But the shame never left. So as I was eating more and feeling that pleasure, allowing myself to feel that pleasure, the second it was over, the shame hit. I hated myself even more. I was even more disgusted because now I was gaining body fat and it was a mess. Luckily, that short little stint lasted only about a month, because then I went to my first treatment center, an eating disorder treatment center. They pull you in, and from day one, you have 3 meals and 2 snacks, and you have to eat 100% of what they serve you, or you have to eat one of those like protein shakes, the Ensure type things. I don't remember exactly what brand it was. So my world was rocked. I remember sitting there in front of food that I'd never even allowed myself to eat before. It was like a sloppy Joe. And they said, you have to start eating 100% of your food. That's what you're here for. And I just remember sitting there looking at everyone eating, bawling. 3 days of sitting in front of this food, just bawling. Because I didn't know how many calories I was eating. I didn't know what was in this food. I didn't know what it was going to do for my body because I hadn't calculated it and figured it out. And I was just supposed to trust. Bawling, just looking at this food. I couldn't do it. I barely finished a meal because if you didn't finish a meal, you had to make up those calories in a protein shake. And that was way more comfortable to me. So that's what I did. Throughout all of this, the boyfriend I was at the time, love goes out to him. I don't blame him one bit for this, broke up with me because it was a lot to handle. Yeah, that's a lot to handle. I'm not going to call myself crazy because I'm just doing the best, but this very dysregulated person is now in treatment and has left a lot of dysfunction in this other person because she was relying on him for her well-being. Yeah, he has him healing and needs some space. I took that as another vote into the bin that Caroline is unworthy of love, that Caroline does not deserve to be secure and supported. She's not worthy of a life of just love and ease. So guess what I did? Planned another escape route from this planet. Not only was the eating painful, were the groups painful, I was put on all these medications. Oh, and by the way, we think you have an addiction problem to drugs and alcohol. So we're also going to send you to these AA groups that no one else has to go to because their problem is eating disorders and you have all these other problems. Oh, and you can't be smoking the nicotine that you were smoking before that helped with your anxiety. Oh, and here's a ton of new meds. Great. I want out. I don't want this anymore. There's the list of things that are wrong with me just keep on growing and I can't contain it anymore. So we tried to exit this planet again. I wrote the notes. I wrote out the plan for what I wanted to happen to my dog. All the things. Another glimpse of time that God, the universe, however you want to call it, saved my life in a profound way that allowed my feet to stay in this present earth. And I don't remember it, but then I went and told on myself about what had happened. It was this whole thing, was shipped off to another loony bin. And here it was again. There's another thing on the list. And we don't know what to do with her. And she's in this loony bin with a lot of other crazy people. And we can't send her home because she just came from a treatment center where she tried to leave this planet. So we have to find somewhere else to put her. So where was I put? In another treatment center with a lot of other girls. And it actually was one of the best places for me because I learned real skills that helped me. But it really increased the identity I had that there was a mental illness issue. There was a drug and alcohol issue that kept me from living and that I needed to be fixed. And the month and a half that I spent at that residential treatment center gave me so many tools to talk about my feelings, to label my feelings, to give myself grace, to be able to survive through the feelings without needing to do anything about them, to talk about my traumas, to identify the areas in my life that were not working for me. Therapy was helpful. That treatment center was helpful. The skills I learned there were helpful. I kept seeing that therapist for about a year after, did the EMDR, did the medications, and met a boy. Yes. What do they call it? Rehab Romeo and Junkie Juliet. When two people meet in rehab, you know those stories go so well. So I met a boy and we fell in love. AKA we trauma bonded and thought we were going to live our best lives together. So now starts the chapter of a few years of on again, off again, using drugs and alcohol, trying to earn my approval, trying to find love outside of myself, trying to fix somebody else so then it can finally be my turn to fix myself, to being on all these medications and going to the doctors to get more of them because they're the only things that, like the Adderall, and I had some surgeries, so I had painkillers. Like I was always looking for more and more and more and more and more. And it never came. And the deeper I got into the relationship, the more I was manipulated to believe that I had to save this person and prove my love, or I was crazy. That I had all of these issues and that I didn't know what love was and that I didn't know how to give love because everything I did was wrong. Somehow was still going to school, getting good grades throughout all of this. Somehow on the surface was still following my passions and getting good jobs. And, like I worked with kiddos with autism and then I was a coach and like I was leveling up on the outside, but on the inside, things were getting deeper and darker. And I wanted to just leave so many times. But if I left, this person that I was with could not survive without me. That's how it became. That I had to continue to prove and fix and work to finally feel relief. That I hadn't suffered enough yet. I hadn't suffered enough to live the life that I wanted to live. That was the story. Slowly got disconnected from my friend group because of the dysfunction in this relationship and the drug use and the alcohol. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Doing drugs for fun on a Sunday because we have nothing else to do became the norm, and getting into really sketchy situations, getting access to more pills and all these things. And it's kind of wild because at this time I had switched my degree to be social work and was concurrently getting my substance abuse counselor certificate. So I was literally going to school to try to help myself, help the person I was dating, because I was so lost. And I thought that my calling was to this is my calling, is to use my pain and my experience to offer hope and strength to other people. My soul knew that the whole time and was searching for it before the outside world, before my brain, before my heart could get on the same level. And so, yes, while I was learning about all of these drug, rehab, therapy, all the things, I was trying to do them to myself and my partner. And I, in hindsight, realized the biggest feelings that I have is the ability to see other people's genuine light that they don't see. And I thought that getting them to see their own light and their own worth would give me my worth and my light. I'm sure we'll get there, but at the end of the day, I had to acknowledge and accept my own love and light. And that is enough. I don't have to prove to anyone else that I did that, that I do that. I don't have to save anybody else to get that, to receive that. I just have to be me and step into my true power. So going back, tumultuous relationship, I remember Googling one day, like, what is emotional abuse? What is verbal abuse? What is manipulation? What is emotion? Like, all the things were pointing towards this is a very toxic relationship. I didn't have any girlfriends at the time because I couldn't hang out with them without a fight. So I was so isolated, so deep into this. It feels like manipulation. And I know I played a big part in getting there. And I didn't know how to get out and I was scared. And I knew if I left, this person probably would off themselves because that's what they told me. And I was in a really tricky place and ended up having to get a protective order and a lot of other scary things. If it wasn't for the love in my life and the parents and the home base that I always had to return to, I don't know if I would even be alive right now because of that relationship and all the other things that I've talked about. But another Cliff Notes version, that's a whole nother story. I got out. I was in a lot of pain. I had never been in that much pain before. But at this point, I had started to reclaim myself. I had taken myself, not advised. This is my personal experience. Please don't do what I did. Took myself off of all of my meds, like my psych meds. I have been on a slew of things. I stopped going to talk therapy. I was doing the self-help books, reading the podcasts, doing the prayers, going to AA. That started the journey of me reclaiming myself because one day I woke up and I said, I don't feel loved. I don't feel valued. I know this relationship has a lot to do with it. And I grabbed my dog, my work clothes, my computer, my school books, and I went to my parents' house. And that moment, I consciously was in so much pain, didn't know what I was doing, wanted to go back so bad, but my heart had had enough of living for things outside of me. And that was a little over 2 years ago. And since then, I have discovered what this journey was all about. And this journey was all about experiencing anything and everything I could to find security outside of me so that the list was zero. Tried all the things, the drugs, the alcohol, the relationships, the eating disorders, there's just so many things in my past. And if I hadn't exhausted the list, I would not know that there is no other answer than reclaiming it from within. So I've spent the last 2 years of my life cultivating my soul. And what has that taken? Acknowledging that I don't have to prove myself to anyone. Because I exist as a human on this earth, I am worthy of whatever life I want to live. And that I have a lot of subconscious programming that the world has given me that says I need to produce, I need to perform, I need to be small, I need to fit into your mold, I need to look a certain way, I need to act a certain way, I need to respond in a certain way, I need to show up in a certain way, I need to behave in a certain way to be accepted by you, because if I'm accepted by you, then I'll be worthy and feel loved. That if I work this job and make this much amount of money and work my way up here and am selfless and serve and help other people, then I'll be okay. If I am the perfect girlfriend that does all the things that you want me to do, then I will be loved and accepted. If I am the perfect human with perfect finances and no debt, then I'll finally feel like I've made it. If I am the top bodybuilder with my own company, with whatever, and do it on my own and show you how strong I am and I don't need any help, then I'll have made it. No, none of that is true. We'll get into this in the future, but even my bodybuilding journey started not authentically because I thought that if I proved myself there and showed the world how disciplined I was, then I would make it. No. Luckily, it's a passion of mine and my soul was following its journey, and we see it as a very different thing now. But you know what? That's not how it needs to go. I don't need to fix anybody else. I don't need to change anybody else. I don't need to make anybody see their worth. I just have to wake up every day, see my worth, and step into that, and that is enough. So no matter what your story looks like, no matter what your traumas look like, your pain looks like, your hurts look like, the internal dialogue that is in your head of what you need to prove, to gain, to be, rewrite the story. I wake up every day and just live the life I want to live because I rewrote the story. I acknowledged all the shit that I was carrying that I didn't even actually believe, I didn't want to believe. I mended all of the places that needed to be mended and still continue to. I started embodying the person I actually wanted to be, even though it didn't make sense to the outside world. But you know what? I don't want it to make sense to the outside world. I don't want the CEO that works a 9 to 5 and has the white picket fence and the Ford F-150 and the perfect business and the perfect credit score to understand my life, because I don't want that life. I want a life where I can create what I want to create and live how I want to live and follow my heart and my passions, and that be all that I need to do. And now I embody that. I've integrated it so I can embody that. And I've created a business based upon that model, a course based upon that model, because I want to be able to show everybody else that breaking free of the stories, of the hurts, of the traumas is possible. You don't have to be the depressed addict in unhealthy relationships. You don't have to be the person with so much self-doubt that you don't go after that dream job that you want. You don't have to be the person suffering from OCD that can't leave the house without touching the doorknob 5 times. You don't have to be the person that's afraid of losing herself so she doesn't move to the place that she wants to move. Wherever you are right now, if there's a piece of that that you don't want, that you don't like, that doesn't feel true to you, you don't have to carry it anymore. And it's not your fault that you're there. Somebody else probably labeled you as that. Somebody else probably told you that's what you should do. But it's your responsibility if you want to do something about it. No, it wasn't easy. It's still not easy. Life is hard, but you get to choose your hard. Would you rather reprogram your life and your reality and your vision of the world to be happy and joyous? Or do you want to stay in that fear, in the scarcity of I'll never have enough, I'll never be enough? No, you are enough and you have enough in this moment. You just have to see it. So if you don't want to be anxious anymore, don't be anxious anymore. If you don't want to work a job that you hate, don't work a job that you hate. If you're in a relationship that drains you, don't be in that relationship. And it's so much easier said than done. And that is why I'm here. Because look at my journey. It did not happen overnight. And I'm still going. There's still so much that I want to explore and uncover and embody and experience. It never ends. And I don't want it to end. I'm so excited to wake up every single day and experience life. I'm so excited to keep creating and exploring what my true authentic soul and vision for this life looks like. And it keeps changing. I think it's one thing and then I do it and I'm like, actually, this doesn't fill my soul as much as I thought it would. I want to try something else. That's what life is all about. Life is not all about how do I fix myself? How do I avoid this pain? How do I make other people happy? How do I fit this mold? How do I change myself? No, let's not do that anymore. I hope my story gave you hope that there is different, that you can live whatever life you want to live. And we lose our imagination way too young. So after this, spend the rest, whatever you're doing today, spend the rest of your day imagining what life could look like if you stopped identifying with things that you don't want to identify, engaging in things that don't serve you, believing stories that keep you stuck and sick and hurt and painful, behaving in ways that harm your body, your mind, your soul. You are all rock stars. You are capable of more than you can even believe. And if none of this makes sense to you, good. That's where the magic happens. because our minds like to figure everything out. But guess what? Our minds work off of evidence. Our minds work off of all the evidence from our past. And let me tell you, I don't want to repeat any of that. So I don't live from my mind anymore, because my mind does what it knows. And what it knows, as we've been through today, that was the Cliff Notes version. A lot of stuff that no longer serves me, that I choose not to identify with anymore. And if I can do it, you can do it. So let your imagination run. What do you want your life to look like? And then go freaking get it, team. Y'all are rock stars. Have a great day and go imagine your best life.